Good afternoon. Welcome to the F&B panel. Today we will talk about how we can enhance F&B revenues in our hotels. And joining me on this panel are experts in the field with over than 20 years of experience. Scott, VP F&B Rotana Hotels. Spencer, Senior VP F&B Dubai Holding. And Puneet, co-founder of PerfectCheck. Welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We didn't prepare all the questions before. I can tell you this. We haven't talked, so we just met now. And so I have few questions to my panelists, but I also count on you to ask any questions you think we didn't cover on this panel. So Scott, Spencer, and Puneet are welcome to address any question you have. Scott, I'll start with you first. Okay. What do you think of F&B discounts? I mean, we go in hotels, in restaurants, we always go and find 10%, 15%, vouchers, papers. We check in the room, we see a big banner, go and dine and get 5% discount or 10% discount, buy one meal, get one meal. Is this really what the guests are looking for today? And is this really something that can drive people into our outlets, you think?
From my side, and I think a few GMs will shoot me, I'm not a real big fan of discounts. I don't think discounts has got its place in every F&B outlet, but you need to think about it this way. People are more looking for rewards these days than they are looking for discounts. And I give you an example, Starbucks, for instance, when you go in there and you order your coffee, you're not going to get a 20% discount or a 15% discount. You're going to get, you're returning after your fifth coffee, you're going to get a free coffee. So if you look at Etihad Airways, your miles that you collect, people are looking much more for rewards where they can redeem that down the line, which is also a very nice form of discount. Because if you start discounting quite a bit and you're running down that rabbit hole, is you're cheapening your product. You're saying to people, I'll give you this product cheaper, and then at the end of the day, you're just hurting yourself. I think people need to think a little bit more differently about discounts and really focus a bit more on kind of what kind of rewards can we do, how do we attract them to come back in, because maybe you get them once or twice, but I don't know, from my side, that's what I see.
Spencer, you agree with Scott on this, or you have a different perspective on discounts? You think it can help outlets?
No, listen, I agree with Scott. I think in reality, adding value is more important than discounts. As you come outside of the hotels and more in casual dining in QSR, there may or may not be a need, and there may be a different operating model that can support discounting. But when you're trying to sell an experience, the injection in the arm of discounting is very hard to withdraw without drawing blood. And it's something you want to stay away from, 100%.
Yeah. Puneet?
Yeah, I actually think pricing is a strategic and tactical lever, wearing my revenue management hat for many years. And how you use it is important. Somehow the Japanese restaurants seem to do a great job of that. My wife was in Tokyo and she wanted to go to a restaurant, and I recommended a few places because I'm like the home concierge for all these recommendations. And she landed up going for dinner and then cursed me later on for the check that she had to pay. And I said, who asked you to go for dinner? I told you specifically go for lunch. She said, how would it be different? I said, simply because the lunch meal is priced much more attractively. It's again the law of inverse proportion of supply and demand, that demand exists at different price points. So they're trying to attract people who are more price conscious, at the same time aspire to get that experience, but they reduce the portion size because it's lunch, they can justify it, and they're able to do variable pricing based on that, right? There's several such examples. There's a restaurant in Singapore called Coma, which does something similar. It's a destination restaurant. You can't get a reservation, but for lunch, it's a $39 lunch set and $49. And then they do a lot of upsizing along with that, right? You can add a sake, a carafe along with that.
Yeah.
And they're very good at doing that. So actually, their lunch average check, you would think is about $49. Actually, that's incorrect. It's 108 Singapore dollars, right? So a lot of good examples of that. So again, how you use pricing strategically and tactically is very important.
And the reason I'm mentioning this, because you feel, and we're not talking about Jumeirah or Rotana specifically, we're talking about brands because we go around and see different hotels and different outlets. But you always feel like the first thing that comes to everyone in the hotel business is discount. You know, let's throw in a 10% discount, happy hour when it's not near. You know, this is like, you always feel it's always coming back. It's the first action we love to do. And this is why I wanted to ask you this question to see what's your opinion on this. Spencer, if you think about, you know, like in hotels, there's always a comp set that we define a comp set and we know who we are competing with. So we say, next to me, there is the same product, same pricing point, and then we take time to define the comp set, and we do benchmark, and we do a lot of incentive and bonus scheme based on this. But we normally don't do a lot for F&B. So like the outlet is always sitting there, and we think we might be competing with this one and this one, but how do you think, what is the best way to define a comp set for a specific outlet? And how do we define it? You know, like, what do we use?
I think you start with your demographic. If you're a resort hotel and you've got 5 hotels together, then the data will tell you exactly where those people are coming from, whether they're families, whether they're couples, whether they're from Russia, whether they're from Italy, whether they're from UK, and how that changes within the season as well. Then you look at your target demographic, and let's assume they're pretty damn similar. Once you understand your demographic, you will understand, if you research, what their dining habits are, not just in their home country, but whilst they're traveling pretty much in terms of holiday, which is where our bread and butter is in terms of tourists. So if typically they're eating Italian, they're eating Greek, they're eating French, et cetera, et cetera. So you have your top 10 cuisines. Then you would index what is licensed in that 5-kilometer stretch along the beach, right the way down to the Palm, right the way up to Four Seasons, and see where the representation is. That typically will show you where the gaps are, if you choose to exploit. Once you get those gaps, you will look at, okay, who is the best in the market? If there's a gap in Greek, who is the best in the market of Greek? Is it Opa? Is it Namos? Is it Milos? And then you would start looking at their pricing, indexing, entry, stretch, exit, decoys, all of those things. So it's super important that you get all of that data before. But absolutely, you should be indexing to understand whether you're going to be either competitive or whether you're just going to be run-of-the-mill. And it's not what we want in the business.
Yeah, and this is something that we should be using in all the outlets, even though I don't know. And again, we're not talking about specific brands like Rotana or Jumeirah, but we don't know how much this is implemented today. You know, it's like, is every outlet really defined with a set of comp set? We benchmark, we collect data, we check pricing, you know, you don't feel like it's followed, you know, always, you know, in the way it should be.
Yeah, I think we spend much more time kind of trying to manage the operation and not enough time looking at our comp set and looking what's around us and saying, what are we doing, you know? Are we going the right track? What is our competition doing? You know, and even if the competition is doing something, what are you going to do different? You know, and where's your target market? Who you want to kind of grab from that? So I fully agree from that side.
Yeah, I mean, on this subject, I've just done. So we post a monthly newsletter called Smart Operator. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you can follow this article about competition benchmarking for restaurants and bars. And we've written a pretty detailed article on this, which people found very helpful. The key, I think, is something someone's really smart told me many years back, is we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know that we don't know it. The reason for that is that in most traditional restaurant settings, especially, no offense to my hoteliers friends over here, but if you ask a hotelier, who do you compete with, they'll bring out, another St. Regis restaurant, another JW Marriott restaurant, or another hotel restaurant, right? Without realizing, and I operate in the independent space, that today some of the best meal experiences are by the independent restaurants who are actually eating you for lunch and dinner, literally, right? So you have to open your mind to really look at your catchment area, and I love what you said. Know your customer. How much time do we spend really defining who should be our customer, and therefore, who do we compete with, right? Yeah. It's sometimes not about the cuisine, because food and beverage today is more entertainment and less food and beverage, right? It's about entertainment. If I have to go out for dinner, where will I be entertained the most, right? It could be Mexican, or it could be an Italian, or it could be one of those Mediterranean cuisine restaurants, because that's my preference. So you have to open up your mind and really think, and it begins with what you said.
Yeah, and
knowing your customer
Spencer mentioned this as well. I think demographic, understanding who comes to your place, who comes to your restaurant, what people like. Puneet, on this, there's a lot of talks about technology and data. What do you think is needed today for F&B in restaurants? I know you can talk about this for 1 hour maybe, but what is essential for people to have, let's say?
Yeah, the first thing, I meet people and they ask me, so do you do AI? Without realizing, that machine learning only works with very large data sets, and this is not such a large data set as yet. I think most hotels, most independent restaurants have all the data in the world. So data is not a problem. Is it clean data? That's questionable, right? Can it be cleaned easily? Yes. The answer is yes, right? Till the time you can pick up all the details of a transaction. Where did the guest come from, right? Are they in-house? Are they visiting non-resident guests, right? Is this a family? So some kind of a market segmentation, you can easily pick up in any point of sale system, whether you use Symphony or Infosys or Revel or Lightspeed or whatever POS you use. They all have the capability for you to just spend 10 seconds more to just capture this information when a guest walks in. 7 Rooms and all of these systems have sophisticated CRM capabilities today that are available, right? Which gives you a lot of insights about your customers, where they're coming from, that conversation, right? All it requires, what POSs don't do is a great job today of analyzing and making recommendations on what you should do. And this comes from a fact that anyone who's worked in food and beverage, 9-10 hours on the shop floor is tough job. And ask this guy to then sit down in front of a computer and spend 1.5 hours analyzing information, or hire people for revenue management or revenue analytics analysis, forget about it. They're not going to do that. So technology has to get more predictive, has to get more prescriptive in nature. And data exists today. So it's a question of whether you have the right tool to allow you to do that, allow you to achieve that prediction and prescriptive capability.
And sometimes we don't, most of the time, we don't have resources to do it, because the revenue manager is doing revenue management for rooms. For F&B, there's no one, and then asking someone after 10 hours shift to do analytics, and, it's not going to happen. So also we don't invest in resources to have people that can do this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was recently on a call with a restaurant operator, and he said he knows everything about menu engineering, and then he was looking at the tool, and it was telling him things. He said, wow, it's already doing this for me. Wow, it's already doing this. So he knows theoretically, he knows tactically what action he needs. It's just that he doesn't have the time to sit down and do it every month or every week to analyze his business. So I said, so how often are you going to do it? He said, I'm going to look at it every 2 weeks now. And I'm going to take, Turkey is a great example. When the prices of produce was going up and down because of the volatility, you had no choice but to change your pricing and align your pricing. Otherwise, you'll be totally out of business. You'll be losing money, right? So how do you achieve that? So data exists It's just that you need the right tool to be able to automate and use it.
Right tool and right resources to be able to process all of this. Absolutely. Spencer, it happens to me many times. I don't know if it happens to you sometimes, you know. You walk into a hotel, to a specific outlet or specific restaurant, and then you find that you are sitting there by yourself, you know, and then you wait to see if someone is coming, no one shows up, and then you also see like you have more waiters and more staff than actually the guests in the restaurant. And definitely you know that this restaurant should not be making money with this amount of payroll and people and, you know, and the few amounts of guests in. But still, you come back 2 months later, the outlet is still open and still no guest. And you come back 3 months later and there's no guest. So why do you think hotels keep restaurant open if they don't make money? What's the objective?
There's certainly no restaurants in Jumeirah that are making money.
No, I'm not talking about Jumeirah in general. I'm talking about any...
Okay, so listen, I think a few things. You talked about 7 rooms there. If you get the parameters wrong, the times when you walk into a restaurant and they say table for 4 and they'll say, no, we're fully booked out, and then you look in the restaurant and you see empty tables everywhere and you can't comprehend it. Mm-hmm. It's because you have got the parameters set wrong in 7 rooms. Profit is an interesting question as to, even if you're not making much money, and by the way, third-party restaurants typically make 2 or 3 times the GOP per square meter than hotel restaurants.
Not always, I wish.
However, where it might be making a profit and where it might be banking money is in respect of guest sentiment. So let me give you an example. Internationally, you're booking a hotel here in Dubai. You're a family. You want the security of half board or full board where you know you're guaranteed to get a table. And so the allocation to that restaurant mightn't be exceptional, but you're making money on ADR in the room.
Yes.
Okay. So there is a need, particularly in signature restaurants and all-day dining restaurants in hotels, that you are serving the guest that is coming to occupy your rooms, first and foremost, in terms of guest sentiment. But you're right. I think the bigger question is what percentage of guests do you need from outside of the hotels, are frequently visiting, loyally visiting, for that restaurant to be super successful in terms of profit versus trend.
Yeah, and this bring me to my next question for all of you, and I will start with Scott on this one. You think F&B outlets in hotels should be operated by hotels or given to a third party?
Third party.
See, you got the devil's advocate right here next to me. I think there is a benefit on both. You want to run F&B because it is, you do want to run F&B in your hotels, but you need to look at how many venues you are. I think you also need to look at the outsource very seriously because that can bring a different dynamic to your hotel, a different clientele, which you didn't have before. And also where it helps is if you bring a higher brand in, you naturally start uplifting. And that's really kind of the way that it works.
Yeah.
So definitely you want to be running certain where you know, but the problem is in hotels, if we try and run 14 outlets or 15 outlets, we are very good at running hotels, we're very good at filling hotels, but we are not good at, we're not good at like running 14 outlets.
Yes, yes.
So we need to focus on what we're good at running, dilute that a little bit, get an outsource partner in, and then kind of collaborate between the two.
And the reason I'm asking this question, again, not Jumeirah, not Rotana, not any specific brand, but you go to different hotels and you see the restaurant, the same restaurant is here over the last few years and still the same, you know, and still with time it dies, you know, it's not the place you want to go back to, and this is the reason why I'm asking this. And we know, always people tell us that people outside of our industry specialized in F&B can do much better on third parties, and you have a nice concept, you know, that you can have nice restaurant, nice. I mean, it's a whole of everything. So, what do you think, Spencer?
I think hoteliers are decathletes. They're good at each subject. It could be concierge, it could be reception, it could be in-room service, it could be selling the rooms. Whereas F&B is a subject in its own right. It's almost like a shot putter or a sprinter. They are the experts in what they do. I think, listen, it splits opinions, but typically in Dubai, about 30% of restaurant GFA in hotels is third parties. That should be closer to 50% in my mind. Absolutely, it should.
It is today 30%.
Yeah, it's currently 30%.
Okay.
And it needs to be stronger. And we shouldn't ignore the cachet of international brands, restaurants, the Zumas of the world, the LPMs, and have them in our hotels. Why wouldn't we? Because I think brands build brands. What you can't measure is the ADR that Benefit brings of a guest that books 2 months earlier and gets that guarantee of half board, versus what people will come and stay in your hotel because you've got great F&B brands there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Puneet,
think,
Puneet, you used to be a hotelier. You're not a hotelier anymore, so now you can
I still
you
consider
can see it
myself
from a
Italian.
different point of view, I think. Yeah. So what do you think?
I think I have great examples of good hotels running phenomenal food and beverage establishments and being very successful. The Four Seasons Hong Kong is a great example. Sorry, I'm ex-Four Seasons, so they brainwashed me for several years. The Fairmont, the Palm here is a great example of that, right? They've got some pretty good restaurants which they run, and they're pretty commercially successful, right? So there are hotels who do run some very good shows with restaurant, right? Like one of the highest grossing revenue in the world is actually run by a hotel called the Le Bua in Bangkok at State Tower, right? It's a different thing. You pay $40 for a hangover cocktail, right? But it's a destination restaurant, but very well managed. There's 7 restaurants there. So it really depends on your capabilities and capacities. I believe I tend to agree with both of you. There could be few outlets that you manage yourself, right? Where you don't need to make a destination restaurant out of it, or you don't need to have that oomph, that snazziness, right? For example, your all-day dining, which takes care of some of the aspects. The few that you want to really make your marquee restaurants, you could have them in collaboration as a management contract with a third party or third party operated, right? There are 2 flavors of that. So that could work very well, right? Recently, I also have another criticism of hotel designers, and I pick a fight with many hotel designers. When they make an all-day dining, they think it's just going to serve breakfast. It's a breakfast room they create, without thinking how it's going to be filled up for lunch and dinner, right? And I was at the Centauro Reserve in Samui recently, and they've done something smart. They've got restaurants kind of linked to each other. So in the morning for breakfast, everything opens up. Yeah. And in the evening, they become distinctive restaurants with a different music, different light, different sound, all of those aspects, right? So I think even the hoteliers designers need to think a little more smartly.
Yeah,
you're not
how to split the meals.
making breakfast room that serves 500 people.
Yeah. See, and the trend is moving towards that way. People are thinking more about restaurant first, ADD next, and how we're going to serve breakfast. So people are looking towards that. But you must also, the thing that you need to look at as well, people, when you go online and you go to booking.com, one of the things that you look at what the offerings are in the hotel. And that's also how you base your decision on where you want to stay. So it's very key to have that kind of really good F&B product in there, because that will also drive people towards your towards your hotel. So it's very key to have that in there.
Okay. One last question, and then we need to leave some time for our audience to ask some questions. Spencer, data mining and AI. There are tools today that you can input some location, seating, menu, and then these tools give you back a proposal of what type of restaurant you should open. Indian cuisine, outdoor, indoor, Italian, mixed, international, What do you think? We had a lot of talks today about AI in the morning session. How do you think this AI and data mining will help hotels to, or owners to open outlets, to open restaurants, or to change restaurants?
Listen, F&B is the only trade in the world that uses all 5 senses. It's experiential. From an AI, from a guest-facing perspective, I still think it's cumbersome, super cumbersome. We talked about, Puneet talked about the stress of working a 12-hour shift and then data mining and using that information. Where algorithms and everything else benefit F&B is in back-of-house systems, back-end systems. So it could be dynamic reservations in terms of 7 rooms. It could be suggested ordering to make sure your wastage is minimal and you don't go 86 items, or sorry, you don't run out of stock on certain items. That is automatic rostering in terms of staff numbers and what time that they come on. Taking that human interaction out, and by the way, that's where systems are really more accurate than humans. Taking the humans out of the equation from a back-of-house perspective, absolutely it's there already. From a guest-facing view, it's still cumbersome.
Yeah.
Scott?
Yeah, listen, from my side, we have to be very careful because everyone is super excited about AI, and I think ChatGPT is getting bombarded every single day. And I think now, in the office, everyone's replying to each other with Copilot. I think no one's replying anymore. They're just pressing Copilot to reply. For F&B, if you put in what type of restaurant I need to open up, you have to remember one thing. AI is never going to give you the experience, because the experience is the key. It's like having a student coming out of university with a lot of knowledge, but no experience. So you have to be, it's a very great tool that you can use to help you in your decision making, but if you're going to fully rely on it to open up a concept saying, this is the area, what kind of concept that I can have, it might give you something completely different. And something that you have to remember, it's like, it's in its infancy. It's like the start of it. You know, it's like some people, when you Google, they're like, I've got a sore leg, and then Google spits out chop of your leg, you know. It's, you know, that's what you have to be very careful with. So it's very kind of, I see in the future that it will play a much bigger part, but it needs to be trained and it needs to be, but like Spencer said, it's never going to take away that kind of emotional human interaction.
Puneet, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, well, it's not enough to speak about.
If you have some,
Okay, I'll try and make it really short. Anything which is monotonous, which is tedious, which needs to be done on a repetitive basis, artificial intelligence can definitely do that. Think of the few different scenarios in a hotel. You're at the poolside, you know, instead of waiting for someone to come and show up and do their upselling and all, you can just pick up your iPad or whatever and just order, and it picks up the table number. You can pay through that or assign to your room, and it comes to you, right? That's what you want. You're relaxing. You don't want anyone bugging you. But you go to a fine dining restaurant, I would hate to see a robot take my order. Maybe I'll smash that robot, right? I want a human interaction. I want the finesse, and I want the craftsmanship of food and beverage, which makes it into a phenomenal experience, which gives it the fun, the enjoyment. If I go to a bar, I was in a cruise line, and I saw this guy, this robot make cocktails. Anyways, it was really gross and quite obnoxious what the mind was when they were shaking the cocktail. You know, I want to go to a bar because I want to talk to the bartender. You know, people go to the bars not to just have a drink because they want to talk to the bartender. They want to be entertained, right? So there are things where AI can definitely fill in. Some are back of the house, ordering, operations, all of that, data analytics, data science, use of that, menu engineering, server performance optimization. All of this can be done through AI. But you can't take the soul of food and beverage out of a real experience.
Yes, definitely. Okay, we still have few minutes. If any questions to our panelists. Oh, yes. Yeah.
What's been your favorite hotel F&B experience and why?
Without promoting Jumeirah or Rotana.
Not your own hotel.
Yeah. Not your own hotel.
Myself?
Anybody.
Cool. Do you know, it depends on the occasion and what occasion recognizes in me. I revisited Bodrum this summer. Long story, I used to work there when I was young and handsome beyond belief. 19 years old. But I went back this year. It'd grown massively. But I stayed in the Met. And Foley as an experience, it's interesting because actually it's an F&B operator that's gone into hotels rather than hotels focusing on F&B. And I've got to say, from a joined-up experience, value, consistency, design, and unique point of sale, Met and Foley for me.
I have so many examples, not just one, but since I'm in Dubai, I have very fond memories last time of being at the Paramount Hotel and going to their speakeasy where they do an immersive theater on every Wednesday. It's a small venue, but it's a phenomenal murder mystery immersive theater. That totally blew my mind. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Great experience.
Yeah, for me, it's about the emotional connection. You know, you have to eat, you have to drink, and when I was in Bolivia and I was in this restaurant, really high altitude, and this crazy waiter came to us and explained the food and how they did the food, and the sommelier came and said, yeah, no, we've got this crazy guy, the way he makes his wine is he throws tortilla chips, leftover tortilla chips in the wine barrels and knocks it down. And that is what it is that connection, that emotion, that storytelling. That is what makes it great. And you walk away with much more memories telling your friends. I have a very good saying, if I don't go home and tell my wife about the restaurant that I was in, it wasn't a good restaurant.
Yeah, that's my experience.
Any more question? Yes, I think. Alex, we still have time?
One more question.
One more question.
Last question, and then we are going to our coffee break.
Hey.
Hi.
Oh.
How are you? Is it working? Yes. So, actually, I want to ask, here in Dubai, where was the last restaurant you went to and you felt the passion and authenticity of the experience itself, and hotel restaurant?
Hotel restaurant.
Yes. Other than feeling something commercial.
Yeah, not a hotel restaurant, to be honest with you.
We have
Not a
we have
hotel
big issue
restaurant.
now, right? Yeah.
Not a
this is-
hotel restaurant. I have to be honest. A hotel restaurant has got a different demographic. If it's an outsource restaurant inside of it, then yes, absolutely. But if you think of a hotel-run restaurant, not really, because like we say, it's...
So what hotels are doing for this? Because now I can see that majority of people, they go to standalone restaurants to feel this passion behind the food, the storytelling. But like in hotels...
So this is what hotels are starting. Hotels are starting, and I see a trend coming up now. They're starting to take a long, hard look at their operations, and they need to start looking at, is this restaurant profitable? What are we doing with the space? And we have a lot of empty space in certain hotels. Are we utilizing this better? And then again, talk to third parties. Get that back in there. We need to revive it back up again. And we need to admit it. If we're not good at running an Italian restaurant, let's get someone that is good at running an Italian restaurant in. You know, and that is what we need to bring back. So it's now we're in that kind of baby phase of let's look at what we have, and we need to now go to the next phase of it.
It doesn't. I think also, Alain, what they mentioned, the three of them on this panel is, you know, even if you give a place to a third party, it's not a bad thing. You know, it's not like the hotel failed to. You know, you have certain spaces or certain destinations you need third parties to operate, and Spencer mentioned this, and Scott and Puneet also the same. You know, so. This is what I think we discussed and we wanted to allude to. Okay?
Thank you very much. Please join me in thanking Sam and his panel.